My friend Hal Freeman is a retired professor and lives with his family in a small city south of St. Petersburg in Russia called Luga. While there, he started a blog called Between Two Worlds, where he chronicles his adventures and experiences as an American living in a small city in Russia. And this summer, the summer of 2018, Hal and his family returned to the States on vacation, and I had the opportunity to catch up with them and to conduct this interview with Hal. So I think you'll find it quite interesting. I hope you enjoy this episode from my interview with Hal Freeman.
Well, that's a very interesting and difficult question. In some ways, I had gone to Russia the first time in 2002 with a friend who had adopted an orphan from a young man, as a child actually from Russia, and he would go back and support orphanages and churches there. So I got to go in. I went in 2002, 2003, and then I went back in 2005 on my own, and eventually moved there late in 2005. And so I lived in St. Petersburg and taught English in St. Petersburg at the Linguistic Institute. Married to my wife, Oksana, there, and we moved to America, back to America for me, first time for her, in 2008. We lived in America. In 2012, I realized I was losing what little Russian language I knew. I started working on my Russian language. I started reading Russian history, and still no thought of moving to Russia. But when I order from Amazon, they put books up, and I got one called The Art of Prayer, which was an Orthodox book. I read that, found it extremely rewarding. So my interest in Russia, I kept working on my language. I got a Pimsleur and went through 3 levels. Still with no intent of going. We hosted some children from Belarus in our homes in the summer who had been near the Chernobyl disaster, and they got out of the radiation in the summers, and we hosted them and felt very comfortable. They were speaking Russian, and so that was just things began to trigger my interest in Russia. And then when I discovered my wife was going to have a baby again, unexpectedly, I knew I wanted to stay home with that baby. I knew I didn't want to, I'm too old a father to ride off to work while she's growing up, and I didn't want to miss that. I began exploring avenues for how I could do retirement, semi-retirement, something to make a living and yet stay home or be close by, spend more time with my family. The other factor that really got us thinking about Russia, however, was the cultural trends that we saw happening. And this was not the only thing. There were just several other things that began to bother me about the culture of America. And on the phone one day, my mother-in-law said, "Why don't you just come to Russia? You've taught Russian students English before," and we just couldn't get it out of our minds. And we thought, prayed, talked to people that we trusted and confided in for months, and eventually concluded this is what we believe we should do for the best of our family, and give me more time to spend with my family, live in a different culture that we don't feel is as antagonistic toward our Orthodox Christian beliefs. And so we made the move. And it was several of those factors, not just one thing. And it certainly was not made overnight. It was a long process that we evaluated family conditions, financial conditions, all of those things. And so they kind of came together, and we moved to Russia.
Hi again. Hope you enjoyed this episode from my interview with Hal Freeman. Please subscribe below to get notified when new episodes become available, which happens every week. And if you would, please leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of this video. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.